Hey, this is Robert Nolly. You're listening to Labrador Leadership with my dad, Bob Nolly.
Wow.
Live from the RVA, this is the Labrador Leadership Podcast with Dr. Bob Nolly. The program that brings you the leadership skills that can make you the most authentic, approachable leader for the sake of your business, your team, and for you. Now, here's Bob.
Oh, and you're back. You're back, and we are here. How are you, folks? Welcome to the Labrador Leadership Podcast. How are things in your part of the world? I hear from a lot of you. Things are going good. Yeah, there's a lot going on in the news now, but things are going good. This is the time of year that people seem to like for a variety of reasons. We're getting into the fall now. It's September, and it's one of those rites of passage. You know, as we get into the rhythm of the holidays, this is like the front end of that where people go back to school. If you're a family, you've gotten your kids back to school, you've gone and stood in the Target, in the Walmart, and bought stacks of the right kind of notebooks and the right kind of pens and all sorts of school clothes, and you've gone through that. But if you're an adult, I have a lot of colleagues, a lot of friends that are heading back on their own with their kids, not to the same school, but at the same time, coincidentally at the same time, heading back to school. Now, in a really early episode of the show, I talked about the difference between folks that are successful in doing that and folks that aren't. But I want to go over that one more time today because enough people are committed to finishing their education, starting their education. I really applaud the people that are the first ones in their family to try to get a degree. Applause to you. And I've worked with so many students like all of those types for so many years. I've been able to sit and observe the difference between those students that do really well and those that don't do as well as they want. So, you know, if this, I may have covered this once before earlier in the show, but, you know, so it's like your dad or your grandfather reading The Night Before Christmas on Christmas Eve. Maybe I'll do this every September. Probably not. But I do want to recount this for you and tell you the 5 things that make a difference between doing well if you're going back to school as an adult, if you don't. Some of these will make you go, duh, like the first one. The first one is you got to go to class. Duh, there it is. But you do have to go to class because many institutions now have very short quarters. They'll do a whole class of material in 7 weeks, 6 weeks, even 11 weeks. I teach a lot of those places that do like 10 or 11 weeks. And if you've got to go to class because you're going in there one day after work in the evening, perhaps for 3 or 4 hours, or you're doing it online, you have to go. You have to be present. And here's what happens to folks that kind of fall off the wagon. You have a situation where you wake up in the morning and the alarm goes off at 5 o'clock and you turn around and put your foot in the back of your partner, spouse, or whoever, and you get them in the bathroom so they can get the hot water and they can get dressed. You can get them out the door to go to work. And then you get the kids up and you go make their lunches and you make sure they're up and dressed and presentable and to send them out to their lives today to make the school bus. And then that's all done and you go run up to grab your shower so you can get to work and you get the cold water. And then you run down to get out the door just solely frustrated. You grab your keys and you head out the door and you put the key in the ignition of your car, click. Nothing, click. Nothing. Oh my gosh. So you're running around the neighborhood looking for somebody that has jumper cables for you, hoping that'll do the trick. Maybe you have to call the AAA and wait, an hour or so for them. But you get your car started and you're off to work. You get into work and you get there maybe 10 o'clock instead of 8:30, and there's your boss standing there, tapping his wrist, looking at his watch. Yeah, no, I was just a little late, little car problem. And you get to work and you end up spending the morning working with the customer from hell that has been put on this earth for no other reason than to make your life miserable. but you're a champion. You're a leader. You're a go-getter. You take care of that customer, and everything works out well. But by now, you're just exhausted. They have sucked the life out of you, so it's time for lunch. So you go to grab your lunch bag. Your lunch bag is not there. Where is it? Oh, it's sitting on the counter in the kitchen at home because you left it there because you were trying to find somebody that had jumper cables so you could get your car started. So you borrow $1 from somebody, or you're looking in your wallet and you have a couple of bucks, and you go and have the lunch of champions, potato chips and Diet Coke, and hope that gets you through the afternoon. And you do get through the afternoon and things get better and it's time to go to class. So you go out to the parking lot and you throw your car in reverse. It starts up. It does start up. You put it in reverse. Bam! You run into somebody that's speeding down the aisle of the parking lot, really not paying any attention to anybody that might be pulling out, like yourself. And there's a little bit of damage. Corner your car, a little corner of the bumper. Nobody's hurt. Everybody's fine. And right there you go. That's enough. That's enough. I can't do it. The day has just been too horrendous for me. Okay, here you go. Right there, right at that moment, I need you to do one thing. You got to go to class. Even though it seems impossible to you, go to class and sit there with people that may have been through the same kind of day you've been through. And go to class. And here's the important thing. If you don't, you will have learned something. You'll have learned how to not go to class. And not going to class the next time will be much, much easier. So, come on, a day like that, can I make it up? Sure, you can make it up. Let's look at it. An 11-week class. The first night of class is pretty introductory, some introductory material, a brief lecture. Go over the syllabus, talk about how things are going to work. And that's what happens. You got another class about the middle with a midterm and the one at the end with the final. So that's 3 out of the 11. You got 8 classes left. You missed 2 of those. You missed 25% of the work. 25%. Can you make that up? Sure, you can absolutely make that up. Do you want to have to make it up? Well, probably not, because you're a busy person and there are other things going on in your life. So the number one thing is go to class. That's important. All right, number 2, have a relationship with your professor. No, not that kind of relationship. Make sure he knows who you are. Even in an online class. Email him, introduce yourself, him or her, Introduce yourself. Tell him where you live, what you like to do, that you're glad to be there. Because here's what's going to happen. At the end of class, he's going to be working up the final grades, and he's running down the list, and he goes, 89.5, Mary Smith, that's close. Who the heck is Mary Smith? B. But if he's introduced you, if he knows who you are, if you've met him and been active in class, he's going to go down the list and, 85.5. Mary Smith. Oh, she's such a great lady. She came to class every night and did a lot of contributions in class, added to the discussion. A. Is that fair? Sure it is. And that's the value of having a relationship with your professor. If you don't, you're not going to do as well as you hope to. And you may have that professor again a little bit further down the road in your program. All right, go to class, have a relationship with your professor. You're well down the road. Number 3, talk to your support group. Who is your support group? Okay, there is your professor for that particular class. They will certainly be open to questions and help you when you're hitting some bumps in the road. Most of them do. I certainly do almost all the time. There are also people at the university or institution. There's probably an advisor or somebody that helped you through the admissions process that you can ask for help for issues with your student account or getting books ordered and all of those things. You can take advantage of all of those people. But there's also another support group, your partner, your wife, your hubby, whoever, your kids, your friends. Now, those folks, you want to do one thing. You want to have a conversation with them along the lines of, here's what I need from you. And if you have a family, you have kids, you go, kids, sometimes on the weekend, I'm going to be in that room there and that door is going to be shut. When that door's shut, leave me alone. I need to get my schoolwork done. I love you and I'll always have time for you, but when that door's shut, you need to let me get the work done. Don't let the house burn down. If the house is burning down, come get me, but let me get my work done. Particularly with your partner. Tell your partner what you think the workload may be like. Talk to them about how it's going to get done. If you're single, don't have a family, and none of this applies to you, tell your friends. Tell your friends that when they're out at the club and they text you, go, hey, come meet us down at the club. We're having a great time here. Come on. And you say, no, I've got to get this paper written for Sunday. Tell them to just go, okay, hang in there. Way to go. We'll catch you next time. And not to keep sending you pictures and text all night long about, oh, look what you're missing. We're having a great time. Because that's not being as supportive as they could be. So have that conversation with your support group. And if you take the trouble to do that, you'll find that you get the support from them that you might need. Go to class, relationship with your professor, talk to your support group. Number four, I get to recount the story of one of my favorite lectures I ever see. And it's number 4 is the big rocks. Your education's a big rock. Stephen Covey had this lecture that he did, and people would pay hundreds of dollars for a ticket to go to a hotel ballroom and sit here and see his presentation. And at the front of the room, there's old Dr. Stephen standing there with a vat about 12 to 14 inches high and maybe 14 to 16 inches across. It's round, it's clear. It looks like a big clear planter. And there's some gravel in the bottom of it. And he tells you, this is your life. This represents your life. And this gravel in the bottom of it represents the things you have to do in your life, like sleep and take care of bio issues and all that sort of things. And laid down the rest of the table are all these rocks. Actually, they're mostly ground, but they go all the way from, like marble size all the way up to cantaloupe size. And they're labeled. So he gets a volunteer to come up, and the volunteer comes up and everybody applauds and encourages her. And she comes up somewhat embarrassed, and he looks at her and says, okay, take all of these things that are part of your life and put them in your life. And so she strikes out to go to put all the balls in the vat, and she gets them, and now they're mounding up at the top, and she's trying to get the ones so they'll like get a little footing there, and they'll stick in little crevices. But she's got as many as she can, and they're mounted way over the top, and she's still got maybe a half dozen lying on the table. And she's kind of embarrassed, and the audience goes, oh. So he goes, okay, empty the vat. So she takes everything out, and then he gives her the tip, which is big rocks first. So he loads the big rock in that is her job, and then the big rock in that is her family, and then the big rock in that is her education, and then all the other smaller things go in there like hobbies and crafts and driving and reading and, all of those things that are just smaller that you may do. You know them in your personal life. And she puts them all in there, and lo and behold, she puts the last ones in, and they are smooth and even, all fitting in this vat. The audience starts to applaud her. She is beaming. This isn't even really her life, but she is beaming. And all of these rocks fit in this vat at the top. And Stephen applauds, the audience applauds, and she kind of nods out at them, basking in the moment. But then Stephen asks this question. He goes, is it full? And everybody goes, yes, it's full. And he leans down to the floor behind the table, and he picks up a milk jug kind of thing full of sand. And he starts to pour that whole gallon jug of sand into this vat. And it all goes in because the sand granules are the smallest of things. But even when you think your life is full, you have room for much, much more. And everybody starts to nod and goes, oh, I see, I've seen the light. So he pours that in there. And now everybody applauds. And the lady's still standing there nodding. And he goes, and now it's full, right? And they go, yes, yes. He reaches down again behind the counter, lifts up this gallon jug full of water. And now the crowd already knows it's what's going to happen. And he pours, of course, the whole gallon of water in there, which fits. This liquid, goes into all the vacant spaces. And that's the lesson. And he sends the lady back to her seat, and everybody is standing applauding her for being the object of the lesson today. But the point here is this. Your education's a big rock. It's got to go in there first. It's not something you do off the side of your desk. It's not a hobby. It's not where you go, I think I'll watch TV tonight. Ooh, I think I'll watch a little American Idol. Ooh, I think I'll watch Orange is the New Black tonight. I think I'll take a class. No, it's not like that at all. It's not like that at all. It's a big rock. It's right up there with your job. It's right up there with your family. Treat it like one, and you'll do well. Okay, we're just about at the end of the line here. Go to class, relationship with your professor, talk to your support group, the big rocks, and number 5. Number 5, I don't have the answer for you, but it's a question. It's a question, and it's up to you to answer it. And the more effort you make to answer it, and the quality of the answer you come up with is, I think, a real direct relationship to how well you're going to do. Here's the question. Where will you work? Where will you do your work for this class and any other classes you have? Where will you work? And when you come up with your answer, I want you to be almost cinematic about it. I want you to reach out and try to do it in great detail, as great a detail as you possibly can to come up with the answer. Because the more detail you have, the more movie scene cinematic you are, the more likely you will be successful. So go into great detail. Think about the room in the house where you work. Will you have to go to the library to use a PC there? If you don't have a laptop, will you have to go to a conference room at work during the day and do work? Will you have to work on the weekends? What time of day will you work? What will it be like? Here's the detail I come up with. I'll throw back the covers here and let you look. When I finished up my doctoral work, here's what it looked like to me. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning every day. Jackie was getting up at 6:30. I wanted to be there for her to do some work, to get her out the door. So I get up 5 o'clock, and I'm wearing what I'm sleeping in. I've got, shorts and a t-shirt on. And I go in there and I throw in the light in my office, boot up the PC, and start doing reading there. Also writing there. Shut the door. It's cold in there. Even in the heat of the summer, keep the house cool. In the winter, of course, it's naturally cool. I've tried it downstairs. I've got a cup of coffee. It's in my favorite blue and green mug, and the handle feels like this. And I drink stronger coffee, put some cream and sugar in it. I come upstairs and I sit there and I read, and I use my favorite pen that's a little bit thicker in gauge since I have big hands, and it's blue and green. And it draws a nice line, and it feels good when I write with it. And I sit there, no music, no TV, for 2 hours every morning. A slightly different scene, in the evening when I had to do work on the weekend, but that's what it looks like. That detail right there. What does it feel like? What does it look like? Where will you work? And that's how you get it done. Go to class, relationship with your professor, talk to your support group, remember the big rocks, and answer where will you work. And if you really want it, you're going to be a rock star. I can't tell you the number of people I've seen be successful. Just adhering to those 5 things. You got it? All right, go do it. You can do it. All right, thank you very much for listening to this today. I'll read it to you again next September. Okay, we'll be back next time.
Thanks for listening to the Labrador Leadership Podcast. For the sake of all the special people in your life that deserve you to be the best leader you can be. Connect with us on our website at LabradorLeadership.com, on Facebook at Labrador Leadership, and on Twitter at Lab Leadership. Now, here's a final thought from Bob.
Applause to everyone today that's made the decision to go back to school. Well done. Soon, I will have a little surprise for you folks, a little gift. It's something you've been waiting for. More importantly, take care of each other. Take care of each other. Everyone have a great week. See you soon. Bye.